Hey everybody, it's Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, making another video for you here out of Boise, Idaho. This is actually going to be a pretty interesting video. As you know, I've been working, and I'm going to say struggling with a 2000 Toyota Corolla with a 1.87 liter engine in it. It's been a very interesting job, but before we get into that, let me just tell you a little bit about myself. I am an automotive technician, certified. I've been in the business now for going on 17 years, I guess. I think my wife pointed out just recently, 17 years myself. 10 of those years I've worked in shops. The last shop I worked in, I was shop foreman. I had 11 technicians underneath me. It was a big 12-bay shop. We specialized in Ferrari, Porsche, Mercedes, BMW, transmission rebuilds, Saab, anything foreign. We also did domestic, but we really did a lot of the stuff that a lot of people couldn't do in Dallas, Texas. And so after that shop kind of went under, I decided to start working for myself, and eventually got to the point after 7 years of working for myself, being able to just stay home full time, raise my children, and run my own version of shop, as I call it, out of my garage. So altogether, I have 17 years experience. I am certified with Ferrari, Ford, Daimler Chrysler, Mercedes, Bavarian Motor Works, BMW, Nissan, Toyota. That's who I'm certified on paper with. I'm also ATRA certified, which is Automatic Transmission Rebuilders Association. And actually, if I'm straight up honest, technically on paper, I'm no longer an AAC Master Technician, because every 5 years you are required to renew. And this past 5 years, I just decided, I think it was a couple of years ago, I started getting the notices. I just decided I'm not going to renew. I've already renewed twice, and I've held all 8 certifications. So working for myself, I'm just good right there. I do keep up with all the latest advancements in automotive technology, and it's just something I do on my own. So as I've worked in my career and what I do on the level that I do it, it's a lifelong career for me. I've had different mentors. Right now, I have a mentor. His name is Jim Weaver. To my 17 years experience in the automotive industry, he has 55 years experience, 35 years as a successful shop owner here in Boise, Idaho. He owned a shop also known as Weaver Automotive and Engineering. Not only is he a degreed mechanical engineer, he's also a degreed automotive engineer and a gunsmith, and holds many other titles as well, from metallurgy to welding, you name it. So that is who my partner is. That is who backs me. And he's my go-to guy, because even though I have 17 years experience in this industry, when you do what we do every day for a living, work on multiple makes and models, everything from bumper to bumper repairs, rebuilds, changing a light bulb, computer diagnostics, visual diagnostics, I mean, you name it, you're going to run into all kinds of different stuff. You really got to think outside of the box. And even though you may feel like you have all the schooling and book knowledge in the world, there is no school or book in the world that's ever going to cover it all for you. So in my industry, I like to think that it's very wise to always remain teachable. And so therefore, that is why I always keep a mentor. Now on this job, you've got my 17 years experience involved in it. You've got my mentor, Jim Weaver's 55 years experience involved in it. And we've also been consulting with Boise Cylinder Head, or Boise Cylinder Head Shop. The gentleman there, his name is Scott, and I believe he has easily 30 to 40 years experience just in cylinder heads. And so you have a combined close to, what is that off the top of my head, 100 years experience involved on this job. And there's a reason for that I'm pointing all this out to you. So if you go back to my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, and you look up under some of my Toyota jobs, and you look for this Corolla, you'll see that this has been a struggle to diagnose, to repair from the get-go. When I first got in contact with the customer, he was pretty much convinced that he needed to spend the money for a engine rebuild or just outright buy another car. Now, that is one thing that threw me off. On my YouTube page and Facebook page, per the videos, you'll see that I have quite a lot of experience with just Toyota by itself, everything from their trucks to their cars. Again, something as simple as a light bulb change all the way on up to actually rebuilding the transmissions. And I've never rebuilt a Toyota engine, though. And that's what's going on here. So he was pretty much convinced that he needed to rebuild his engine. Not something I've seen. I've replaced head gaskets on them. I've adjusted valves on them. I've replaced timing components on them. But I've never rebuilt an engine. Now, an engine rebuild for me means you pull the engine out, break it completely down, camshafts, crankshafts, pistons, rings, rods, whatever, rockers, rollers, arms. I mean, everything comes out. Everything gets machined or either replaced. Everything gets put back in according to factory specifications, and you have yourself a new engine. Easily $2,000 to $3,000 worth of work. A lot of times nowadays it makes more sense just to go buy another used car for $2,000 to $3,000, especially if you have some serious issues that warrant an engine rebuild. Not the case on this Toyota. See, when it came to me, it was misfiring really bad, had multiple cylinder misfires in it, would barely start, would barely run. I mean, it was just on its last legs. However, it only had 160,000 miles on it, and these engines are known 300,000 mile engines, okay? So I started going through all the notions. I put the computer on it. I checked the freeze frame data. I checked the live data on it. I matched the numbers. I put everything together, and not one thing would actually spell itself out for me. In other words, I would collect just enough data to start suggesting that I got a blown head gasket, but then once I would collect that data and start doing my visual checks, like looking for smoke, burn-in, or anything like that coming out of the exhaust, I didn't have it. Or, something like blown piston rings. Well, even though I had extremely low compression in the cylinders, again, the engine still ran. I didn't have a bunch of smoke and stuff coming out of the exhaust. So I would get right up to an issue or a problem, and then I wouldn't have enough data to give me the 100% go-ahead to start making the repair. And I don't care if I'm 99.9% sure that this is what it is, I still may not do it until I'm 100% sure. Why? Because I'm a professional. This is somebody else's vehicle that we're working on. It's also somebody else's money that we're dealing with. And as a professional, even though I'm working out of my own garage in my backyard, I'm not going to spend your money, and I'm not going to waste your money unless I'm 100% sure per the data that this is what is wrong and this is what needs to be fixed. Because in my industry, there is enough knowledge nowadays, there are enough tools out there that we can always pretty much be 100% sure. So, again, I didn't have enough data to prove it was a blown head gasket. I didn't have enough data to prove it was blown rings. I didn't necessarily have enough data to prove it was timing, to prove it was valves. So what we did from there was we started pulling valve covers to check the timing, to check the adjustment on the valves. And lo and behold, we found that we had an extremely loose timing chain, as well as all 16 valves were completely out of specification. And we measured that using our feeler gauge and using the numbers per the factory manual for the specifications for the exhaust, for the intake, turning the engine over by hand, sticking your feeler gauge inside of there, making sure you have clearance. If not, you obviously have a valve that's too tight, and so therefore you have a valve that is open at all times. So that's where we ended up at. We went ahead and we sold a valve adjustment. We sold a timing chain, all the timing components. That's, water pump, everything that's involved, because that's what we had per the paperwork. And you can just see right here, here's some of the math, and we're going to go over some of this once we get into the mechanics of what's going on. So, because that's what we had. So we did all that work and put it all back together, stick the key in it, bam, starts right up. Next thing you know, what happens? With somewhere between a 50-mile test drive and another 50 or 60 miles that the customer drove it around, the engine starts running horrible again. We start losing compression. By the time they bring it back to me and I start diagnosing it again, guess what? We're right back at square one. compression is gone in cylinders, not 2, 3, and 4 this time, but actually cylinders 3 and 4. Cylinder 2 turned out to come back alive and was okay. And after that, I'm sitting here, now I'm scratching my head. I call my mentor with 55 years experience, tell him that it's come back, and he's scratching his head. So at that point, you can watch the video where I start introducing compressed air. I'm looking for valves that are still open. I'm looking for blown head gaskets at this point. I go back in, I remeasure everything. I even pull the tubing off of the intake, and I basically prop the throttle open, introduce compressed air to listen for any air coming up out of the intake valves, because when you're losing compression, 9 times out of 10, it's on your intake side, right? Okay, so I'm listening for air coming out of the intake valves. I've got all the proof that the valves are shut. It's now time to go ahead and consider that, yeah, we've got a blown head gasket. Let's take a look. So we go in and we go ahead and remove the head, and that's where we're at right now. So I'm going to pause it. I'm going to show you something that in a combined 100 years of experience has never been seen on the Toyota 1.8 liter engine. Okay, folks, here we go. Okay, so what are we looking at here? We're looking at a cylinder head off of the Toyota 1.8 liter engine. And so, as you can see, we have removed it. And so what we're doing is I'm going to show you here in just a second. I lost my magnet. Magnet, where are you? Here we go. I'll just see if I can pull one of these out, just to give you an idea. So here is a bucket, a lifter bucket. Now, the lifter buckets, this is hardened steel. If I were to drop this, or I could throw it down hard enough, it would shatter into a bazillion little pieces, okay? If you look on the inside, if you can see inside of there, you can see there's a number, 10, okay? Now, just to keep it simple, that tells me what size bucket lifter. That tells me the difference in the measurement between the top of the lifter here and the center of the lifter here. So in between my two fingers, the distance of that lip inside of there to there, again, the distance in between my two fingers, just to keep it simple, on this application, the Toyota 1.8 liter and the bucket lifter, that 10 represents 5.10 millimeters, okay? And then, if I can pull another one out without using my magnet here, let's see. This one, this is going to be a different measurement, if we can find our number. The number in there, that's 60. So this is the measurement for the adjustment on this one is 5.60. And we do a lot of math in order to come up, and we break everything down to the thousandths of the inch in order to get that. Now, the way this works, okay, is what you don't see is the camshaft. Now, the camshaft sits right inside of here, and it turns. And I've got a drawing here of what that kind of looks like. All right, you've got your camshaft, and on your camshaft, you have your elbows and your lobes. And as your camshaft turns, all right, and this makes contact, your elbow here makes contact with your bucket lifter, well, then what does that do? That pushes down on the bucket lifter. Again, let me see if I can pull one out for you. You see right down in there, you have your valve and you have your spring. There it is right there, okay? And so as your camshaft turns inside of here, turn, your camshaft is turning. These are moving up and down according to where the elbow is, according to how everything is turning. And then based off of that, you have your intake valves that are opening and your exhaust valves that are closing, or vice versa. And you can see how that works here. Camshaft turns, pushes down on the lifter bucket. There's your spot on the lifter bucket there. Here's your valve. Here's your spring. This is your cylinder head, which, if you can see inside of there, let me see. You know what? Let me get you the light here. All right. And let's see if we can get you. And there's your valves. inside of there. Okay, so there, come up, come up, come up. There's your spark plug. Oh no, I'm sorry. There's your fuel injector. Okay, so there's where your fuel injector goes. So right there is where your fuel sprays. Your intake valve opens up. Oxygen passes through here, goes down inside of there, down inside of the cylinder. Bam, your combustion happens. And there's the top of the valve of the bucket lifter. Okay? Okay, so now that we have an understanding of how this system works, I'm going to pause it so I can flip this over and show you what I found. That again, in between 3 different technicians and close to 100 years experience, has never been seen on one of these engines. Okay, so here we are now. Now that we finally got the head off, one of the first things I noticed when I pulled this head off was, wow, that is a really clean head right there. That almost looks like it's been freshly machined. Okay. I didn't pay too much attention to that. What I did end up paying attention to was the one thing that I was told that we could be dealing with. Now, I won't deny it. I was told, like I said, when I called the machine shop to ask for a rebuild quote, he told me, I can't give you one because I've never seen one. I've never rebuilt a Toyota 1.8 liter. You just don't do it. You should never have to. The machine shop on this particular head, this particular make and model, the most the machine shop here in Boise at least has ever seen is the need for valve adjustment, maybe a possible shave. But other than that, as far as replacing camshafts and all that other stuff, yeah. And even they said the only reason why people bring these heads into them really is because they can't adjust the valves on them, nor they don't have the tools or even the knowledge to. So I get this head off, and the first thing I notice, can you see what I notice? Look at this valve. This is number 4 exhaust valve. Look at that. It is completely gone. Now, just to give you an idea of what the valve should look like, let's see here now. Let me find a good one. Right here. Look at the difference in this valve and this valve. Look, that is a completely burnt and blasted exhaust valve on a Toyota 1.8 liter engine. And I'm here to tell you right now, I could go the rest of my career, I could gain 55 years experience, just like my mentor, and very possibly never, ever see that again. Okay? Now, it's time to answer why and how this happened. And not only did it happen there, but it also happened in cylinder number 3. Look at that. Okay? And honestly, the rest of these are pretty cruddy. First and foremost, for that to happen like that, it has to be ran for a good time. Now, I was told by the customer that they bought this car 6 months ago. And I'm here to tell you right now, they bought this car with this problem. It's very unfortunate. It really is. Can it be fixed? Yes, that's the beauty of it, but we're going to talk about that here in a minute. First of all, let's talk about how the heck this happened. So again, I'm going to pause it so I can get set up because there's more than what the untrained eye can see going on here. And so I'm going to point that out to you. Okay, so again, keep in mind that what we're looking at here, that does not happen, all right? That does not happen on this engine, okay? So, how did it happen here? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not the only person that has been into this engine, and I can prove it. This, and even this one, it's oblonged and everything else, this is due to human error. And I've got a combined 100 years of experience that are saying it. So what's the first thing that threw me off? Well, obviously the burnt valve the completely worn out and burnt valve on a Toyota 1.8 liter engine. That's what threw me off, okay? So this morning, I go to the master's house. Now, those of you that truly know me, you know that I'm a Star Wars fan, and in my, quote, shop, unquote, we go by the Jedi Order. In this shop, I am the Jedi. Anybody underneath me is the Padawan. And Jim, my mentor, well, he's the Jedi Council, and he's my master. So this morning, I gathered this up after calling the master and told him what I had, and he sure as heck, he wanted to see it. So we go over there, and I find it interesting because I love that he has 55 years experience to my 16, and when I go over there, I just kind of act like a kid, and I act like I have no idea what I'm doing because I'm able to soak up everything that he just tells me. And the first thing he pointed out was the first thing that I saw. He said, boy, this is a really clean head. He said, you'd almost think somebody else has been into it. And I said, yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. And I cleaned off a spot. He pointed to the finish. You see the lines? Can you see the lines in that finish? You see them? Now let me see if I can run my finger over them. I don't know if you can hear it. Okay. And again, I'm going to show you. There's lines. Little bitty lines. You see them? There, you can see them right there. You see them? Well, the first thing he pointed out was that finish. And he looked at me, he said, Matt, this is not a Japanese factory finish. And I looked at him and I said, you know what, Jim? You are right. And he said, well, look over here. Look at this anomaly. He said, again, Matt, that's not going to be from the factory. He said, Matt, this is a remanufactured cylinder head. This is not a factory finish. Now, let me pause it real quick and show you what he compared it with. And remember, I showed you the finish and the lines right there. Okay, so what my mentor then showed me was he flipped this over and he said, notice the finish here. He said, it's been buffed. Yeah, you can see it's been buffed. But there's no lines. There's no serrateness, so to speak. This is a Japanese finish, factory finish that's been buffed. This is not a Japanese finish. There they are again. You see them? This is not a Japanese finish. This isn't even how they would resurface a head over in Japan if you were to bring this head. This is American. Okay, and this is for my machinists out there. Come on now. This is a Blanchard grinder and a Blanchard finish, and this is common in a machine shop. Now then, so what does that have to do with the burnt valves? Remember, this does not happen on this engine whatsoever. So, first and foremost is the fact that somebody else has been into this. Okay, we now know that. On top of that, we also have the stamping. Right there. This is a remanufactured head. More than likely, what happened on this is it overheated. A thermostat went bad, a water pump went bad, something of that matter went bad, the head warped, or the gasket blew, so they changed it. Okay? Good, great. It happens on these vehicles. It does. That's what's so amazing about them. They can get hot as heck. You can warp the head, pull the head off, shave it down, put it back together. You're good. It's this engineering, all right, and this setup with the way the valves are and the way it works, that really allows you to do that. Okay? However, the way these are the seats, the way the valve seats are, and let me see if I can find something here. Okay. Okay. Now you've got your valve seat inside of here. All right. And what they do is, just to keep it simple, is they take a drill. All right. Very high powered, very, very special drill that has, it's all diamond bit. And it has a special bit on it. And a really good machinist will take that drill and he'll come down in here and he'll hit Each one of these holes, and we're not talking, we're talking very slightly. He'll bring this drill in, and he'll whoo, 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 and he'll shave off that seat, whatever it is that he needs to shave off or adjust out or whatever. Now, this is one of two things that can happen here. All right, one or two things that can happen here. I was told from the current machine shop that they actually check their bit after every 4 or 5 drills. They'll check their bit because you can get a black spot or a funny spot on the end of that bit, and that can cause you to mess this up, to mess up the valve seat as a machinist. That can cause you to mess up that valve seat, and at that point, what somebody will do is they may try to shave it off again just to fix the anomaly inside of there. And now you've got a valve that's going to be too tight no matter what you do with it. And remember, this valve we had to take down seriously. This valve was tight from the get-go, okay? And so now you have a valve that is just too tight no matter what. All right, well, here's where we are going to have to start switching gears here, okay? The other way this can happen is somebody is not very experienced and they didn't properly cut this. Or C, somebody got in a hurry and they didn't properly cut it. Okay, so there's your human error right there. The fact that this is a manufactured head, remanufactured head, the fact that we have a situation here that should never be, just goes to tell you, somebody messed this up big time. They messed this one up, and they messed this one up. So now, how did this happen like this? Well, I'm going to tell you right now, that is extremely bad. I've seen them worse in other engines that warrant this type of damage, but again, this never happens. Okay, so how does this happen? Well, let's start talking molecular level, let's start talking atomic level, let's start talking cylinder head. And at that point, I'm going to pause it, and we're going to finish this up. Thanks for sticking with me, guys. Okay, folks, I'm back. And I sure hope this video is working out because this is a pretty long video, and like I said, I'm just using my phone, so if I'm kind of off to the side or something, as I watch it, I'll probably just let it go and just post it anyway. So, all right, well, let's get back to the cylinder head now. So now we know that after, what's it been, a month worth of labor and service and diagnostics and scratching our head, we now know what's wrong. We know for a fact, just based off of the physical evidence that's there, that we're dealing with a remanufactured head. Somebody else has been into this before, and they completely botched the job. And that has caused an avalanche effect. Now, it's caused an avalanche effect on the atomic level, that therefore caused an avalanche effect on the molecular level, that then therefore caused an avalanche effect on the physical level, and now here we are. I'm going to explain how this happened. So I was told that this vehicle was bought and used 6 months ago. I believe that we're talking probably at least a year or more that valve has been like this, and probably maybe a year or more that this vehicle is not correctly ran right. People are going to go, oh, but how can that happen? I've been in this business for 17 years. I've worked for myself for 7. I've had more customers come to me and tell me my car isn't running right, and I ask them how long has it been running funny, and they tell me 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, a year. Oh, it ran funny for 4 months, and then I let it sit for a year, stuff like that. So yeah, I've seen it. I've seen people run their vehicles horribly for years on end. So head job was done. It was cut incorrectly. Now let's talk about an engine cylinder. Let's talk about internal combustion and how all this plays out. So you've got cylinder number 4 on this Toyota 1.87 liter engine. What do we know? It's a combustion engine. We have tappets and camshafts and lifter buckets, tappets, whatever you want to call them. And this is how this engine works. Anytime you're talking about an internal combustion within an engine, the temperature of that combustion is going to be anywhere between 900 to 1200, sometimes on up to 1400 degrees, just depending upon the system. Now you're talking about an atmosphere that is 9 to 1200 degrees. Remember, inside of a sealed system, the cylinder. Not only is it 9 to 1200 degrees inside of that cylinder at time of combustion, there's also anywhere from 120 on up to 180 pounds of pressure inside of there as well, a sealed system. With all valves closed upon compression, that's the way it's supposed to be. That combustion takes place, generates power, what have you. Now, how does something like that then wear out? Well, let's say they machine that incorrectly right there. And we're not just going to say, let's say they did. Bottom line is they did. It's all right there. Okay? So how does this work? We now need to break everything down. Let's shrink. Let's shrink. Okay? Start thinking with me here. Shrink everything down to the molecular and atomic level. An object, you can't have molecules without atoms. How does this wear out? They machine that wrong. So now we're talking about a clearance, a space in between that exhaust valve and the seat and the cylinder head that is a fraction of a hair of a hair of a hair small. You understand what I'm saying? A fraction of a hair of a hair of a hair small. As a matter of fact, this stuff is so precise. It's just small enough for atoms on the atomic level. There's different realms here. There's the atomic world, there's the molecular world, there's our physical world, right? On the atomic level, again, small, that atoms can get through there, okay? How are atoms getting through there? Well, you've got a sealed cylinder, you've got a valve that's supposed to be shut and sealed. Nothing is supposed to get past that valve until that valve opens, all right? Now let's start talking about cooling, okay? In this cylinder head and in the engine, surrounding all of these valves and surrounding the cylinders are where all of your coolant and water ports are, okay? And the coolant, the antifreeze you pour in your car, it runs all through the cylinder head, it runs all through the engine block, and that water, that coolant surrounds the valves and it surrounds the cylinder head in its respective ports, and that is what cools that valve off. That valve does not stay hot. Now we're talking about a fraction, but it doesn't matter because bottom line is that valve is being cooled a fraction. And that is what keeps that valve intact, believe it or not, upon every combustion. Now think RPMs, rotations per minute. You're at idle, your car is idling at 1200 RPMs, that's 1,200 rotations per minute of the engine. Just to keep it simple, that's a lot of explosions. That's a lot of heat taking place inside of that cylinder. However, that cooling system keeps that valve cooled off just a fraction of enough to make sure that it doesn't wear and tear prematurely, okay? However, if you've got somebody that machined it wrong, and now we're talking about a clearance that is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a hair left, well, now some of that 900 to 1200 degree combustion can start, if this is your valve, can start working its way. That atmosphere, that 9 to 1200 degrees of combustion starts working its way past that valve. As it works its way past that valve, guess what's happening on the atomic level? Atoms. Every time that goes past that valve, atoms are being shaved off. What can you not have without atoms? Molecules. So if atoms are being shaved off, that means molecules are being shaved off, and that means that that's going to wear out. I have a funny feeling my kiddo's going to poke his head out here to ask me for something. Hey, Rainer, what's going on, buddy? Okay, I'll give you something to drink here in a minute, kiddo. And that's why I do what I do from here. Sorry about the distraction. So now 900 to 1400 degree atmosphere is getting past that valve consistently, and you're talking about over the course of 6 months to a year, the valve literally completely destroying itself. Now then, let's go to when I made the repair. I adjusted the valve out. I did have an extremely tight valve, but again, between 100 years of combined experience, we've never seen this ever. There's no reason why there should have been a burnt valve right there. that we could think of other than human error. We didn't really stop to think that the head had been pulled, and we really didn't have the evidence that the head had ever been pulled until we pulled it ourselves and got everything we needed off of it. So at that point, I did the valve adjustment. That valve was already pretty much blasted the way it is. When I did the valve adjustment, it's amazing I was even able to adjust that accordingly. I brought compression back up somewhat in those cylinders, and within the next 50 miles, the engine completely and utterly destroyed itself. So that's how this plays out. Now then, I'm pretty sure my customers who are watching this are going to want to know, and I'm pretty sure you want to know, what do we do to fix it? It's actually not as wild as you think it is, okay? Because again, I emphasize on the fact that I could go the rest of my career, I could get 55 years, just like my mentor has underneath me, and never ever see a 1.8 liter Toyota engine head like this again. This does not happen. This is due to human error from before. So how do we fix this? First of all, I just want to show you here. This is gone completely. Okay. There really is no more seat to work with whatsoever, even on this one. Okay, right in here. All right, this little lip right here, you can see. Okay, this is your valve seat. Okay, and you can just see it right here. You can see where it got screwed up. And it's just gone. And so, would it be cost effective to fix this head? Could somebody fix it? Yeah, I've got guys that got 50 plus years experience. They're saying, yeah, even though we've never seen it before, we could fix it, but I highly doubt it'd be cost effective. There's no way. And even then, at this point, you'll never fix that to the point to where it's not going to do this again. You may prolong it, but unfortunately, this head was machined wrong, and it is no good. So, back to the thought of, will I ever see this again on a Toyota 1.8 liter engine? Highly doubt it. Won't happen. So what am I going to do? Well, after my customers review this, I'm actually going to stop doing what I'm doing, and I'm going to go to the junkyard if they're okay with it. And I'm going to see if I can find a Toyota Corolla or just a Toyota 1.8 liter engine. 2000, make sure everything matches up, and I'm going to pull the head. The chances are, again, that I will ever see this again are slim to none. So the chances that I can go to the junkyard and pull a head off of another Toyota 1.8 liter and just put it right on this one are actually really, really good. So that's what I'm going to do to save these people time and money and all this other mess that we're messing with, as long as they're okay with it. And after I speak with them, well, then I'm going to start seeking a junkyard head, because, again, these heads don't do this. We don't have this problem. Thank you, everybody, for watching this 40-minute video. I greatly appreciate your time and your support. And this is Matthew, your friendly neighborhood technician, signing off to go get my kiddo something to drink.